Morning everyone, just hello, I hope you all had a good half term. I know it's a bit Groundhog Day at the minute, not a lot to do and the weather was not brilliant, but I hope you had a restful, relaxing one and it was nice to get away from homeschooling and all the stresses that brings. I want to talk to you today about social media, smartphones and the impact that can have on our emotional well-being and mental health. Now there's no getting away from the fact that smartphones, iPhones, whatever devices you use are the greatest invention we have seen in our lifetime. They allow us to access so much information, advice, all sorts of things, advice on travel, you can Google stuff, anything we need to know these days we can just ask our phones for, they are just basically a mini computer we can carry around with us all the time. So obviously that's a really positive thing and I'm sure we all use them a lot, but as with everything there are very negative impacts with it as well as the positives, so I just want to look at those today. All the main charities that deal with mental health such as Childline, Mind, Every Child Matters, research has shown that over the last 20 years, very sadly, there has been a 70% increase in mental health issues in young people and children, and obviously that's the ones that we know about that are reported on, and research has shown and attributed a lot of that to the use of social media and smartphones, to the point the Institute of Psychiatry has recommended that no child under the age of 13 should have a smartphone. Now I can hear you all taking a big intake of breath thinking, oh, what, no phone for my child? How will I know if rugby's cancelled? How will I know if they've got to school? How will I know if they're getting picked up? I understand that, we all want our children to be safe, and as parents we've got a responsibility to ensure that that happens. They're not saying not to allow them to have a phone, but until the age of 13, just allow them to have a small Nokia so they can message and text, so you can keep in touch with them, but they haven't got the access to all those social media platforms throughout the day and throughout the night. As parents, we obviously want our children to have the same things their friends have got, whether that's the latest football kits, the latest Nike trainers, AirPods, children have things they want, they look up to their peers to be part of their tribe, they want to belong. And I know there's a huge fear that if we don't allow our children these devices and these smartphones, we are worried they'll get left behind, left out, ridiculed, bullied for not having these devices. The problem is, once a child has a smartphone, we all know how exciting they are. We all know we want to explore websites and all those social media platforms and interact with peers and friends in that way. But we actually lose them because they start existing in the world of their phone instead of being present in the moment with the things that are going on around them. So what happens is when children have got smartphones, they don't get bored. Now, when we get bored, we look for things to do, but we look for things that are more creative and that give us real joy and pleasure. So if we're bored, we might think, do you know what, the sun is out, I'm going to go out in the garden, kick my football around, ask my mates do they want to go to the park and toss the rugby ball around. We paint, we get creative, we read, we spend time looking for things to bring us joy. If you are on a smartphone, you actually, instead of being bored, you access things on YouTube, you post things, you look on your phone rather than being in the moment and finding things that give you great pleasure and joy. And unfortunately what phones do is they stunt our emotional growth, they stunt our growth of emotional intelligence. We don't find out the things we love, the things that bring us joy. They actually stop us achieving things that could make us great. So, I can understand your fear of not allowing your children to have these devices or access social media, but what happens is if you encourage them to come off social media for periods of time and maybe just use their phones for messaging and texting friends and family, yes, they lose that connection with peers, but my God, their connection with their friends becomes bigger and stronger, and it's those face-to-face connections and our social interactions with people that allows us good emotional mental health, allows us to grow, builds our resilience and makes us happy. Those social connections are so imperative for all of us, and the more you're on a phone and the more you're accessing social media, then you become more and more socially isolated, and then you will become emotionally unwell and unable to cope with real life. Phones are designed to be addictive, unfortunately. They want us to use them, they want us to rely on them, so we're constantly upgrading, constantly spending money. You know, you look at the money Facebook, WhatsApp, and all these platforms are worth. They are worth billions as an industry. You know, they want us to access them, they want us to use them. But latest research, again shown by all the charitable foundations that do so much work for good mental health, has actually shown that phones are more addictive than alcohol and drugs, which I find staggering, because you sort of think of that as addiction as totally different, but they are as addictive. And if you have a family member or a young person that is accessing their phone constantly, but also during social situations, so if you're all having a meal or out with friends and doing things and they are constantly on their phone, then your child has a problem. They have become addicted to that and are no longer able to interact within normal social environments because their world is now in that phone. Because so many young people now lead their lives through their phone, and I'm saying young people, there are adults, and there may be some of you as parents watching this actually realising just how much time you spend on social media and on your phones also. So maybe we have to look at our own use of them as well. But because their lives are led so much through their phones, they are constantly checking, uploading posts, checking for likes, checking for dislikes, wondering why a friend has got more likes than they have. Do they not look as good as their friend? So you can start to see the negative impact it's going to have, and these constant comparisons. You know, they can look at Instagram posts and things on Facebook and think people have a much better life than they have. But it's all smoke and mirrors. If you think of the effort that goes into some of these Instagram posts, the filters people apply, you know, that's why we have to look beyond this world and become part of being in the moment again, rather than living our lives through our phones. 8 out of 10 young people have reported that 4 of the 5 social media platforms they use, they didn't specify which, but we all know which the most popular ones are, led to an increase in their anxiety levels and was extremely detrimental to their mental health. So if you can actually encourage your young people and speak to them about it and do some research yourself to have digital detoxes from their phone, come off social media for, you know, start maybe gently with 2 days, then 4 days, and then a week or a month, you will see such a difference in them. They will be in the moment, they will be in the present, they will start to appreciate everything that's going on around them again. They will become far more content, more at peace with who they are and the life they lead. Again, obviously I'm talking about the negative connotations of social media here. I'm not saying that it needs to stop, but I'm saying as families and as parents, we all need to be very much aware of the dangers and the negative impacts that social media sites can have. 1 in 10 children aged from 9 up, I mean that's quite young to be accessing social media, have reported they have experienced cyberbullying, and obviously that takes many formats, through Facebook, through phones. The problem with, if someone is experiencing cyberbullying, that bully has access to your child or to that person 24 hours a day, because social media is there 24 hours a day, and also that bullying can be viewed by a larger digital audience, and the impact that can have on a person's self-worth, self-esteem and their mental health is quite profound. And very sadly, mental health is on the rise, and suicide levels have also risen over the last 20 years, and a lot of that has been attributed to social media use and cyberbullying. So please have these conversations with your children and young people about how important it is to keep themselves safe online and to report any bullying to yourself, a trusted person, an adult, or anyone teaching, so that something can be done about it. The other thing I want to make you aware of as well, and I'm not wishing to be all doom and gloom, and you know, it's just as parents we need to be aware of these things, is the grooming that goes on online within chat rooms and when young people are gaming. There are many predators out there who will pose as young people and as children and infiltrate these gaming sites and chat rooms to groom young people. I listened to a talk last week by the Chief Inspector of Nottingham Police, whose name I can't remember, but he's also the safeguarding lead for police over the UK. And the statistics and what he was talking about absolutely shocked and upset me, which they should upset us all. And he was talking about the increase in grooming online because of social media platforms. And he was talking about statistics. And in 1990, if people had accessed or tried to access pornography online, there were 5,000 images available. Last year, if people tried to access pornography online and images of young people and children, there were 18 million available. Now that is staggering and shocking and upsetting, and it should be. What was even more upsetting, I found, was that 53% of those images online were self-generated, which means, and they were mainly in the age group 10 to 15, so that means that young people are taking those images themselves and putting them online. And this is happening after months and months and months, even years sometimes, of extensive grooming by these predators. They come into the chat rooms, they start gaming online with these young people, and to all intents and purposes become your friends, but they're virtual friends. You don't know them, we don't know who they are, they pretend to be people they're not, just to get access to your children and our young people. So it's very important that we have these conversations with our children, but without frightening them. Just encourage them, chat about it generally over dinner, over tea, that, you know, you were reading reports or you've heard that there are lots of people coming into chat rooms and into gaming sessions, and just tell your children, if they do not know these people, whoever they pretend to be, just to let you know. And often then if you confront these people online and through the chat rooms and gaming, they will disappear again. But also report it to your local police or safeguarding at the children's school. But we must have these conversations to keep them safe. And the other thing as well, you know, if we can keep devices within family rooms rather than upstairs in their bedrooms. I know that's not ideal for everyone if we're homeschooling and working from home, but that's another aspect of where we can keep our children safe. There is an amazing foundation out there that is very local for all of us called the Brec Foundation, and it was set up by the mum of Brec Baden, who lived in Caterham and was groomed online through gaming, and felt this person had become his friend but was in fact a predator. And very sadly, Brec met this guy to game, to all intents and purposes, went to his flat, and he was murdered. And so the Brec Foundation is out there to help us all and to give us tips and pointers on digital literacy and how to keep our children safe. So please access that if you are unsure about how you can keep your children safe at home and online, but it's really, really important that we have these conversations with them. So I know obviously that's all been quite negative, the impact it can have on our children, but I am not taking away the benefits of social media. And during lockdown, it must have been a lifesaver for so many of us. It allows us to access information. It does allow for connections, you know, it's allowed us to help our children with homework, we can Google things. It can enrich our lives if it's used correctly. So I'm not asking you to stop all social media. I'm just asking you as families to look at how much you're using it and how much you're accessing it. You know, talk to your children about it. Don't allow them to have their phones in their bedroom at night. Research has shown, and myself talking to young people here at school, when I'm talking about their mental health and good sleep hygiene, so many of them are on their phones or on YouTube channels until they fall asleep, and then their phones are buzzing and lighting up in the night. They're checking them through the night. It is so detrimental to their mental health, and also establishes very, very poor sleep patterns. Tell your children they're not allowed to have their phones in their bedroom at night. And don't take no for an answer. Those phones belong to you. You pay those bills. You are just letting the children borrow them in the day. Make that clear. Be firm let them be charging downstairs and not in their bedrooms during the night. As parents, we really do have a responsibility in life to keep our children safe. Yes, we want them to take risks. Yes, we want them to become independent. But that digital literacy to keep them safe online really is our responsibilities. Lots of schools are looking at it more now. Schools are looking at, they do a lot of sessions with children at school about keeping themselves safe online, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. You as parents can actually lay down rules to keep them safe, decide as families how much social media you're going to access, what you're accessing it for. I, for one, am IT phobic. Thankfully, my children are all much older now, and I don't need to implement those safeguarding techniques in my house. But if I had to, I actually wouldn't know how to. So it's important as parents that our digital literacy skills are kept up to date so that we can do that for our children. So again, this is where you can access people at the Brec Foundation, ask at your school. Your children may even know more than you do, but you can put filters and blockers within your home social media to keep your children safe. And also as parents, we have a duty to make our children digitally aware and also responsible digital citizens. I've just said to you how many young people are being cyberbullied. So let your children know what is right, what is wrong, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And the problem is with phones and social media, you can make a rash decision at the click of a button, and when it's out there, it's very difficult to get it back. So it's very good to have that learning in place and what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing from a young age. Just chat about it generally over dinner, over tea. You don't have to make a big thing about it. Those phones are part and parcel of our life for all of us, and they are here to stay. It's about getting our young people to use them responsibly, and ourselves too. Talk about having digital detox weekends where none of you use social media. Might even put your phones in a drawer. No cheating, mind. And that's really good for our mental health. And then we're leading by example, aren't we? We're saying to our children, do you know what, don't use social media this weekend, and I'm not going to either. Let's all put our phones, let's go for a walk in the park, let's have a game of Monopoly, let's play Uno. It's when we actually take those steps and have those digital detoxes, we connect far more as families, and I tell you what, you'll all be happier on a Sunday night for doing it. So that's my soapbox bit about social media and phones over. You've probably gathered from the video I feel very, very passionate and very strongly about it. But as a parent myself, I really, really do understand why we want our children to have these devices and be part of their tribes and part of their peer groups. So I'm not asking you to stop it. I'm just asking you to all be far more responsible about how we use them and impart that to your families as well. And I just want to finish on the fact, obviously, we've had Boris announcements this week. I would imagine all you homeschoolers are jumping up and down with joy at the fact that the children will be going back to school. Although equally, we all like having our children at home, and I think some people have enjoyed it maybe far more than others, depending on the space in your homes, how you've been able to access homeschooling. I know it's been very, very difficult for some, and hats off to all you mums and dads who've been homeschooling and working. I'm in awe, I really, really am. But there will be some anxiety about people going back to school from both parents and children. But try and alleviate those anxieties. So over the next week or so, again, just when it's in a very informal setting, whether you're cooking the dinner or you're all sitting having a hot chocolate or out for a walk, ask them how they feel about going back to school and are they worried. And if they're worried, let them discuss what they're worried about, and often it will be little things that you can really alleviate that worry for them. Maybe the journey in, or how school is going to look again, or not having seen their friends for ages. But those little things can be really, really big to those and start causing a lot of anxiety. So if you can sort of talk about them and nip them in the bud early on, they're going to come back to school a lot happier, and just make things easier for them and more relaxed. So in the run up to that weekend before school, make sure their sport kit is clean and you know where it is. make sure they know where all their books are, because they might be all over the house after homeschooling. Just so that morning back is nice and relaxed. Nobody's rushing around frantically saying, where's my rugby boots, and has anybody seen my physics folder, and where's my art book? So if you can all have a nice calm start, then it will make that return easier and that first week back not seem so daunting. I hope you're all well, and I'll speak to you all again soon.